I'm Craig Maurer. Welcome to this edition of Special Report. Today, we deal with the greatest mystery in the history of the United States: who killed President John F. Kennedy? We'll be looking at some photographic evidence which serious researchers believe proves that his death resulted from a conspiracy. Only 46 years old at the time of his death, Kennedy was the youngest American president. He was also the first president born in this century. He represented a youthful, more flexible outlook on the world and our society. The people loved his style. They loved his attempts to avoid war through negotiation and his initiatives in the areas of civil rights and social programs. But the young president had more than his fair share of enemies, most of them right here at home. Organized crime bosses were plotting against his life because of the crime-busting efforts of his brother, Attorney General Robert Kennedy. Politicians were fearful of his attacks on the status quo, and the military and attendant intelligence agencies were angry over Kennedy's lack of aggressiveness during the Bay of Pigs invasion and the subsequent Cuban Missile Crisis. In the fall of 1963, Kennedy had angered military leaders by announcing that he was withdrawing all U.S. military personnel from South Vietnam. In the midst of these tensions between the young president and the American establishment, Kennedy made a political fence-mending trip to Texas. On November the 22nd, 1963, while he was riding in a motorcade in downtown Dallas, shots rang out in a small park area known as Dealey Plaza. Kennedy was rushed to a nearby hospital, but was declared dead shortly after 1 p.m., and events moved rapidly after that. In the minutes following the president's death, virtually the entire nation sat in shock by their radios and television sets to hear details of the tragedy. Lyndon Baines Johnson was sworn in as the 36th president, and the Dallas police stunned the world by apprehending a suspect within 2 hours of the shooting death of both Kennedy and Dallas policeman J.D. Tippit. That suspect's name was Lee Harvey Oswald, and within hours the media was filled with an astonishing wealth of information about him. An ex-Marine who had attempted to defect to Russia, Oswald was immediately labeled as a loner and a malcontent. Police quickly produced an abundance of evidence, including a rifle found in the Texas School Book Depository, a building overlooking Dealey Plaza. They traced that rifle to a Dallas post office box used by Oswald. The Dallas district attorney proclaimed an open and shut case against Oswald, who insisted he was innocent. The suspect told newsmen, "I'm just a patsy." And it was 10 months later that a government commission created by President Johnson reported that Oswald was in fact Kennedy's lone assassin and that there was no conspiracy. And the American people accepted this conclusion because they had already been conditioned to accept Oswald's guilt. In February of 1964, Life magazine had published on its cover a most incriminating photograph of Oswald holding a rifle and wearing a pistol in his belt. The caption accompanying that picture bluntly stated, "Lee Oswald with the weapons he used to kill President Kennedy and Officer Tippit." Yet this was 7 months before the Warren Commission announced their conclusion of Oswald's guilt. But was this photo a fake? Well, one assassination researcher and graphics expert has spent more than 2 decades studying this picture, which he claims to be a clever forgery used to incriminate Oswald. That expert is Jack White of Fort Worth, Texas.
Let me show you the results of my photo analysis and see if you too can detect the graphics blunders which prove that a powerful conspiracy resulted in the death of President Kennedy.
The photograph in question was one of 2 allegedly found by Dallas police investigating President Kennedy's murder. And how did this picture suddenly turn up on the most influential magazine in America? The leak of this important piece of evidence is certainly mysterious. Now, Life originally was offered that photo by an anonymous donor, but ended up paying Oswald's wife Marina less than $5,000 for a copy of the original. But at least 2 other copies of that picture quickly were made public. They were published across the country by the Associated Press. Although it seems apparent that these photocopies were leaked by the authorities sworn to uphold the law, there was no official criticism of this unorthodox treatment of material assassination evidence. And what about the man pictured with the rifle in this photo? Well, according to Warren Commission documents, Oswald was shown the photograph while being questioned by Dallas Homicide Captain Will Fritz. Now, Fritz reported that Oswald said the picture was not his. The face was his face, but that the picture had been made by somebody who superimposed his face on somebody else's body. The other part of the picture, he said, was not him at all, and he'd never seen that picture before. So, the authorities said that the incriminating photograph was proof of Oswald's guilt. Oswald, on the other hand, claims the picture is some sort of a fake with his face pasted on somebody else's body. Now, if in fact that photograph is a cleverly contrived fake, there must be much more to Kennedy's assassination than simply a lone, misguided assassin. This concern is even voiced by G. Robert Blakey, the chief counsel of the House Select Committee on Assassinations. That committee looked into the Kennedy assassination in the late 1970s. Blakey has stated,
if they are invalid, how they were produced poses far-reaching questions in the area of conspiracy, for they evince a high degree of technical sophistication that would almost necessarily raise the possibility that more than private parties conspired not only to kill the president, but to make Oswald a patsy.
Someone other than private individuals conspired to kill the president? Well, obviously, these backyard photographs now take on much greater significance than previously believed. For instance, did Oswald's wife actually take the photograph as the government claims, or was it carefully constructed in some sophisticated graphics laboratory as Oswald himself suggests? To try and answer these questions, we've studied every aspect of those backyard photographs, and we've now confirmed the rather startling information brought to our attention by Mr. White. Reporter Dan Foster is standing by with some details on just where those pictures were discovered. Dan?
Craig, behind me is 2515 West 5th in Irving, a suburb west of Dallas. In the fall of 1963, Oswald's wife was staying here with Ruth Payne. Although he had a rented room in Dallas, Oswald himself stayed here the night before the assassination. And it was here on the day following the assassination of President John F. Kennedy that police claimed they discovered two pictures of Oswald with a rifle, despite the fact they had searched the home carefully the day before. This one, Warren Commission Exhibit 133A, is the most famous. It was used on the cover of Life magazine. This is Exhibit 133B, supposedly another pose taken only moments from 133A. While officially only these two photos and the negative to 133B were found among Oswald's belongings in the Payne's garage, Dallas detective Gus Rose told the Warren Commission he found two negatives. To further confuse the issue, two separate listings of Oswald's possessions confiscated by Dallas police failed to mention these most incriminating photographs. Furthermore, an intensive search of Oswald's possessions failed to turn up either the black shirt or dark pants seen in the photographs. And these were not the only discrepancies concerning these photos. Oswald's mother, Marguerite, told the Warren Commission that on the night of the assassination, Marina showed her a picture of Oswald in the backyard holding a rifle over his head. At her insistence, the incriminating photo was burned and flushed down a toilet. Mrs. Oswald could have been confused over when she saw the picture or what pose it depicted, but there's no confusion about this third backyard photo. This third photo, which has never been officially explained, was discovered in 1976 by the Senate Intelligence Committee. It was in the hands of the widow of Dallas policeman Roscoe White.